Today I'm going to be doing a shoulder pad review. A lot of you guys asked me do a review on some pads, so I picked two to do one on. Both of these are going to be like skill position pads. So this is going to be your Schutt Armor Flex skill position, and this is going to be your Schutt O2 Flex for QBs and wide receivers. As you know, I play corner and safety. So these are two of the pads that I've used in the past, and I've kind of settled in on one. But I'm going to go through a couple things to let you know which one I picked. I'm going to go over weight. It's always important. Heat, how hot it makes you, range of motion, probably one of the most important things for me. The contact area, for hitting. Protection, how well it protects your shoulders, body, deltoid, then different accessories, and of course looks, because you always got to look good. So let's start with the weight. Obviously this is a skill position pad, so it's going to protect you a little bit more in the front, and this is sits a little bit higher on your body. So this one, it weighs a little bit less. You do notice a little bit of difference when you're playing with them. But I'm not sure if that's the most important thing, because the discrepancy isn't that big. In terms of heat, so this one is actually the O2 Flex. Let me show you the difference a little bit. So the thing with the O2 Flex is that it has the O2 vapor windows, they call it. So you can see the little cutouts in the pad. It's supposed to release heat from your body. So you do stay a little bit cooler, but I really didn't notice it all that much. Here, this is a fabric covered pad. So it still has an arch, and inside it's still hard. You know what I mean? Just like this, it has basically this plastic piece just underneath the fabric. There's no holes though, but the fabric, can breathe. The only holes it has is kind of up here. But again, I really didn't notice that much of a difference. Then one of the other things too is just the range of motion. That's where I did notice a big difference. So the QB wide receiver pads, they sit higher up on your body, and I'll show that to you in a little bit, than these do. But the important part for the range of motion is really going to be this right here. This is the arch cutaway. So you see where it comes from the shoulder and actually cuts inside. And it pretty much has the same arch as the QB wide receiver, so should have the same range of motion. I actually felt a bigger range of motion with these pads. I just felt like I could get my arms through a little bit more, even with the bigger shoulder stack. So range of motion, I think the Armor Flex wins. It can be used for, skill positions. So you're looking at receivers, running backs, DBs, tight ends, outside linebackers. I really think a quarterback can use it. The thing that is going to be hard is just accessories. This one you can't add the rib protector, in the front and the back here. It has the same, same thing in the back. On this one, you can't add any rib protector, but you can add a back plate on the back of it. So that's one of the good things with it. Obviously, you can add a back plate here. I used to have a back plate on this when I was playing with this one. Let's take a little bit of a look. The next thing is just, the contact area. So if you're playing defense or offense, if you're a hitter, you're going to want to have a bigger shoulder area, and that's where one of the biggest differences is. You can look at the size of this, and again, you'll see it when I put them on for you, versus the QB wide receiver. Actually didn't offer much protection, at all. And it's hard to get that contact area, making a good tackle. Also risk injury when you're doing a lot of hitting with something that isn't going to protect your shoulder as much. So the other thing is just the protection. I felt a lot more protection with these pads. Like I said, this one doesn't come far enough, and I'll show you where it stops on my chest. This one, I just felt like my body was wrapped more, back and front. Felt like my shoulders were covered more with this one, and just overall, I felt like it protected more. The good thing with these pads is they are you can kind of customize them a little bit. So with this one, you can take out the deltoid pads, right? If you didn't want to have this pad, in there, but I'll show you, it doesn't provide as much protection for your deltoid area if you do take it out. So I do choose to leave them in because it really doesn't limit my range of motion as much as you might think. You can also take off these pads on the inside. These are supposed to raise it off of your clavicle, prevent some of those clavicle injuries. Just gives you extra padding. But I actually play without these. I just feel like shoulder pad sits lower on my body. And so it just feels a little bit easier and a lot better without these. Same thing goes for this pad. You can actually take these screws out, remove the deltoid pad, and I've already taken these out to see how it sits on my shoulder so they're equal, but same thing, it has the, for the AC joint, it has the pads here to protect you. Alright, so the last thing really is just the looks of it. Obviously these go under your pads, right? But for some reason, I do like the shininess of this. So I know my cousin, he plays football too. He got some, another one of my teammates, they got some. But the main thing is it is a fabric covered pad, and it is light. It's one of the lightest pads that you can get, as this is too. So I really kind of like the Schutt pads just because they're a little bit cheaper. Both of these cost the same price. This is about $170. Same thing, $170. Different places online. But yeah, I guess that's most of it. So let's take a look at how they actually look and where they fit on you. We're going to start with the Armor Flex. So you can see they're both the same size. They're both a size medium. See where they cover your shoulder. The shoulder pad, you do want the arch to cover your shoulder when it's down. So as you can see, it still covers my shoulder. You don't want your shoulder to be sticking out beyond that arch, otherwise you don't get the necessary protection. And here's the deltoid where I was talking about. It protects your shoulder, right? So if you didn't have that in there, you would see this whole part of your shoulder be exposed. So I keep them in and protected. Really doesn't move any of that flexibility. But you can see where my chest ends here, and this pad sits like this, covers my entire chest. I'll see how much air I have around the neck area. And if you could look at the side, you can see how much my arm, covers how much of that shoulder part. And you can kind of take a look at the back and see how far that goes down. So that's the Armor Flex for you. Alright, so here's your O2 Flex QB wide receiver pad. It doesn't cover as much. Actually, when I put it on, it really comes right under my arm and really almost cuts off my circulation as tight as I keep them. But here you can see how small, this is much smaller, covering your shoulder. Still covers the end of my shoulder like it's supposed to. But just that is much smaller, right? You don't really get that shoulder protection. And here you get, it's almost non-existent, right? So it's not going to do much protection against you when you're hitting. In terms of how the back does go down, maybe about the same, but really that front part is shorter. And then you just notice that neck area. So this has decreased neck area movement from the other one. So overall, I prefer the other pads. I had more flexibility, more range of motion. And that's the O2 Flex for you. Alright, hope you guys enjoyed the review. Remember to subscribe, click the like button, questions, comments, put them in there. I'll respond to you. Schutt O2 Flex QB wide receiver versus Schutt Armor Flex skill position. Holla at me.